Our layers are located down here, and you'll see that the first little box here is darkened gray and has a little yellow dot in it. This is indicating that we are viewing this layer, and the current highlighted selection out of all these layers is also in that layer. So if I were to go to a random layer like over here where there's nothing, I could tap Shift A and add a cone, and then we see here now that the selected object is here. If I click back here, this is our original layer. So I can click and hold Shift, and this will display both of these layers at the same time, and then you can work on them and see them both in the camera. So if I want to move something to a different layer, say I'm on this here where this cone is, and I want to move it to where the layer where my cube is, I just select it, tap M, and then this menu pops up where I can choose which layer I want to put it in. So I'll put it back in that first one. Then I click back here, and they're now both in this same layer. So the outliner allows us to see all of our objects in all of our layers and scenes, and we can filter how we look at those also. So the default filter setting on the Sensei format is visible layers, but I could change it to, say, selected. Then it will only show in the outliner items selected. So I have the cone selected, so it's showing that. I'll shift select this cube, and it's showing that, and then showing nothing else. So let's switch this back to visible layers, and I'm going to hit X to delete everything, then Shift C to center my 3D cursor back. I want to show you one of my favorite tricks with using layers. So if I tap Shift A and go ahead and add a plane, hit S to scale it up real big. Then I'm going to go ahead and tap W to give it some smoothing and increase the view up to 5 and the render up to 5 also. Then I'm going to Shift A, add a monkey, tap W to give it some smoothing, G to grab, middle mouse to constrain it along the Z-axis here, hit S to scale. Pull that out just a little bit. Then I'm going to click on my World tab and change this over to Sky. And there seems to be a bit of a bug whenever you change the setting. The preview doesn't automatically update, so what I do until they fix it with another version is click the World tab, click Paper Sky, and then turn that back off and close that up, and then it updates. And then I'll click on this plane, click the Material tab, click New, and then I'm going to click Mirror, and then click that arrow so we can see what we're doing here. Increase the reflectivity up and increase the Fresnel and the blend a little bit. And then I'm just going to zoom my camera out just a little bit to right here so, and then click Render. So this is just a very basic scene here. We have the monkey head hovering over this round, flat, reflective surface, and then this blue sky. A really cool trick we can do with layers is to have the camera render all the effects of an object, but not the object itself. We'll be able to see the shadow and the reflection and anything else that the actual monkey head is causing, but not the monkey head itself. So if I tap Escape, click on the monkey head, tap M to move it to a different layer, and we could move it to any layer, but I'll just move it down to this one. And then I'll Shift Select down here, and so now both of these layers are showing. Then I want to click on Render Layers button here, and under Layer we see we have these options that say Scene, and then over to the right we have these options that say Layer. So if we hold Shift and select the layer down here where the monkey head resides, so if I click here we'll see this is where the monkey head is. See, these are in the same position here. And then I'll Shift select that back, and we click Render again. We see all the effects that the monkey had on the scene, but not the monkey itself, which this is a really cool feature to be able to do. So let's go ahead and click File and New and Reload Startup File. Up here where it says Scene, if I click the plus sign, we'll get a little menu. It says New Scene, Copy Settings, Linked Objects, and etc. So we're just going to click New, and this gives us a basic blank scene. And we see a bunch of things disappear, especially such as the camera down here, because there's not actually a camera in this scene. So if we switch this back to the first one, we see we have a camera and everything, and that's what allows us to view this down here. For some reason the actual lining of the camera has jumped out. If I tap 0, it'll come back. But so what we can do then is change this from visible layers to all scenes, and now we have direct access to our scenes here. So I'm just going to rename this, double click and rename this scene assets. One neat thing I could do here would be maybe add some type of object I was working on, and say I was building something or making some crazy character or something, and I'll just call that mushroom head. So when I switch back to my original scene here, what we can do is, as we need assets from that scene, we can just drag and drop them directly into our regular scene, and basically breed instances of these things and items as we need them. I'll minimize that, and then of course we can change this back to just visible layers. Let's add a couple of more things in our regular scene here. I'll double right click and add a cone, hit S to scale, double right click and add a torus shape, S to scale, W for some smoothing, and bring that up, maybe duplicate it a couple of times. Say I've got this scene full of stuff and I'm ready to render, but I want to try some changes in it. One good way to do that would be to create a scene that's a direct copy of the scene that you have. And then so if I went up here and clicked plus and clicked full copy, then this completely copied the entire scene, everything in it, everything going on. I'll switch this back to all scenes here and minimize each one of these so I can see them better. So this is now scene point 001. So we could rename this same but turned or something to represent the changes that we were going to try. So we have our original scene here, and then we have our one that we did a full copy of. Say we wanted to see what everything looked like all rotated or something, but we didn't want to have to fix everything once we did this little test here. So now we can immediately jump back from our standard scene to our basically test we're running to want to check things out like that. So those are a few good uses of scenes and layers.